The honourable for Fundy Royal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And, listening to my colleague's remark, there's no doubt in my mind, and there would be no doubt in Canadians' minds, why after 9 years of this Liberal-NDP government, we have crime that is absolutely out of control. They simply don't get it. They talk about resources for police. I want to share with you one story that we've heard recently. Victoria Police arrested the same man 3 times in 3 days for stealing vehicles and committing other offenses. This isn't a matter of the police ability to arrest an individual, catch an individual, find the individual. They were able to do that. But I'll tell you what happened, Madam Speaker. First, he was arrested for trying to steal an occupied car. He was released on bail. The next day, he pushed a woman out of her car, caused several crashes before trying to take a second vehicle. Police caught him. He was arrested and then released on conditions again, Madam Speaker. Incredibly, on the third day, police were called to a home invasion in progress. The suspect left and attempted to enter an occupied vehicle before he was finally arrested. So following this out-of-control crime spree, a statement from Victoria Police leads with the question, why was this person originally released? And Madam Speaker, that's the question Canadians have been asking of this government over and over again. The results are in. The evidence is in. And the evidence, Madam Speaker, is staggering. Since 2015, violent crime in this country is up 39%. Why do I mention 2015? Well, that happens to be the year that this Liberal-NDP government took power. It began the Liberal governance and running of our justice system. Since 2015, homicides are up 43%, the highest rate in 30 years. Since 2015, gang-related homicides are up 108%. Now, Madam Speaker, as I mention these statistics, remember, in each of these statistics are victims. Victims from across the country, victims from urban areas, victims from rural areas, individuals whose families will never see them again. So these aren't just statistics. They represent victims, Canadian victims. Violent gun crimes are up 101%, and they've gone up every year since the Liberals took office in 2015. Assault with a weapon is up 61%. Sexual assault is 71% increase since 2015. Sex crimes against children are up 126%. Incredibly, and we all know this, Madam Speaker, auto theft is out of control. Toronto alone has seen a 300% increase in the number of vehicles stolen since this Prime Minister took office. So to stand here and be lectured by the NDP or the Liberals on what works and what doesn't work, you can forgive me if I find that to be absolutely incredible, Madam Speaker. Canadians know, and Canadians are ready to pass judgment on this government and their weak crime legislation. Incredibly weak, Madam Speaker, in that deliberate efforts through Bill C-75, which created catch and release for bail, Bill C-5, which, as I'll get to on this issue of extortion, Bill C-5 removed mandatory jail time for an individual who commits extortion with a firearm. So, Madam Speaker, the deliberate actions of this government, the NDP and the Liberals, have led us to the travesty that is our justice system. And I use the word justice system very reluctantly, because as I had at Justice Committee, a victim of crime appear as a witness who said, Canada doesn't have a justice system anymore. It has a legal system. There is no justice for victims. And when we look at these statistics, that witness was absolutely right. She was right, Madam Speaker. So I'm speaking today on my colleague from Edmonton Mill Woods, his excellent legislation called Protection Against Extortion Act, Bill C-381. We know, Madam Speaker, that over the last 9 years, the rate of violent crime, as I just mentioned, has gone up in Canada, and the rate of extortion is no exception. So extortion, Madam Speaker, the act of obtaining something, typically money, through force or through threats. Since 2015, again, it should be no surprise for anyone who listened to the stats generally around crime, the rate of extortion in Canada has increased 218% since 2015. In 2022, the rate of police-reported extortion increased 39% in a single year. And this bill is part of our common sense plan to crack down on extortionists and to protect Canadians. So I'd like to mention, Madam Speaker, some of the concrete measures that are in this bill. One, it establishes a mandatory jail sentence of 3 years for criminals convicted of extortion. This is Parliament's way of saying that the current sentencing on extortion is too soft, the criminal justice system is too lenient, the revolving door that allows someone to commit serious crimes and then be released into the community, that door has to be shut, Madam Speaker, for individuals that commit serious crimes. And this is an entirely appropriate mandatory jail sentence for the serious crime of extortion. It also restores the mandatory jail sentence of 4 years for the offense of extortion with a firearm. Now, who in their right mind would think that we should remove a mandatory 4-year sentence for the offense of extortion with a firearm? Well, nobody, but except the Liberals did exactly that with Bill C-5. They removed a penalty for extortion with a firearm, which allows individuals to serve their sentence from the comfort of their own home. It requires no mandatory jail time for using a firearm in the offense of extortion. And Madam Speaker, this is the same bunch that are happy to go after law-abiding Canadians. If you're a hunter or a sport shooter, they want to take your gun. They want to make sure that they harass you to the maximum. They are going to spend millions, if not billions, of taxpayers' dollars to buy back legally owned firearms, to go after the good guys. But what do they do to the bad guys, the individuals that are committing extortion with a firearm? They say, there's probably no need for you to even serve any time in jail. It's incredibly naive, what I heard the previous speaker say, that somehow criminals aren't aware of the penalties in our justice system. Of course criminals know that we have a lax justice system. Canada is a target for many of these criminal offenses because of the lax regime that they have. Of course criminal organizations know that minors are subject to a different legal system than adults, and that's why minors are often used in the commission of some of these offenses. So this private member's bill, Madam Speaker, would also extend the 5-year mandatory jail sentence for the offense of extortion when extortion is committed for the benefit of, at the direction of, or in association with criminal organizations. And this is what we are seeing, Madam Speaker, criminal organizations targeting, for example, business people, saying that if you don't pay up, there's going to be consequences. Maybe using a firearm, maybe as has been the case throughout our country, where individuals will use arson, burn down a project that's under construction if a person doesn't pay up. And that's why this private member's bill establishes arson as an aggravating factor for the charge of extortion. Madam Speaker, for too long, this Liberal government has ignored the rising rate of extortion while communities are being targeted by gangs and business owners are facing threats like having their property torched by arsonists. We know these are not empty threats. Gun violence and arson are often associated with these extortion schemes. Since 2015, the rate of extortion has skyrocketed under this Liberal-NDP government. 263% in Ontario, 284% in Alberta, and up 386% in British Columbia. And that is why, in January, the mayors of Brampton, Ontario, and Surrey wrote a letter to the Minister of Public Safety asking him to take urgent action. The Liberals have not taken action. The NDP are certainly not going to take action. Conservatives will stand up for Canadians and fight against extortion.